Welcome. I'm Julie Wake, the Executive Director of the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod, and we are here with Joe Diggs tonight at his home studio for a little tour and a discussion about his process of making art here in Osterville on Micah Pond.
Yep, Micah's.
Micah Pond, and welcome. So we're going to jump right into this. And Joe, hi. How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great. Good
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you, and thanks for having us. If I could turn the camera, there's a few people behind the camera that we have taken over his space, his amazing studio space here. But before we jump into the kind of the making of the art, I'd love to know more about when, as a kid, what inspired you to become an artist?
I didn't really have the inspiration of being an artist until later in life. I really didn't. I never thought this route was going to be my route. So I had an older brother who was an artist, and I basically just followed everything he did. I had no personality. I just followed him, and he was very charismatic. So I just kind of followed his lead, and he would. Do you remember a long time ago they had these young illustrator books where you draw the bunny, and then you'd send it in, and they'd send you back a book, and they'd say, draw. This is how you draw. And
before iPads. And
yeah.
stuff?
Oh well. Yeah. This is before CDs.
Yeah.
I think it was about black and white TV time, but right around then, anyways. But my brother Craig used to. He did that, and so when they would come into the house, I'd always go like, yeah, I can do this too. So we would sit there and kind of. So I learned the basics of drawing through that.
Yeah.
And then, but never paid any attention to it. And then got to high school, and one day I went to look for my brother, and he was in the fine art building with Mr. Bolton, Ed Bolton. And Ed Bolton was just a fantastic teacher. He just pulled me over. He said, it's in the family. If your brother can do it, you can do it. Why don't you sit down? I didn't know he was lying to me at the time, but it was just a perfect situation. He sat down and gave me a little personal time, and told me, he says, you have some talent. Why don't you come back here? And I really didn't have any academic talents at that point. I was really very deflated in an academic sense, and so he was the teacher that brought me in. So I would come in there. I got A's from there on, and something I never got before.
Yeah.
And so it was wonderful to set my path into the art world.
Absolutely. So so you were really pulled in and kind of changed the trajectory of your life by an art teacher.
By an art teacher. Well, it happened in steps. So my desire was to be a basketball player. We were all a group of athletes here on the street. And, so we, just always, it was always based on athleticism. Yeah. So with that, I playing basketball, hoping to get into college, play basketball. So I went to college and I tried out for the team, got on the team, and at some point one of my professors said to me, he said, yeah, you think you're a hotshot basketball player, but you're a much better artist than you are a basketball player. And I was a little insulted at that.
I bet, yeah.
While I was sitting on the bench. I was really insulted by it. But I realized what he was saying, and then individually, they actually, all my professors came to me at one point and said, Joe, come to my house, we're gonna have dinner, I want to introduce you to my wife. And I had 4 or 5 actually professors who took the time to pull me in and say, look, you can have this life. It's not a huge life, but it's this life. What do you think? And just that special care. That's what made me go like, okay. So one day after they got finished really kind of giving me a hard time about this, I just went in and said to them, look, I promise you guys one thing, I will paint until I die. And that was that was my contract. That was the contract that I ended up, actually, I didn't realize it at the time. I was just saying it to them, but I realized it was a contract that I made with myself. And it was a contract that was, I said till I die, and I meant it, and here I am. And I'm still doing it. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how your upbringing, your family have influenced the art that you make.
Oh, that's what my art's all about.
Yeah.
The whole thing. My art is about me, and so I had problems in undergraduate school, because they always wanted you to kind of bring it in, kind of almost to the point of where you can brand yourself and, okay, I do these, I do this kind of work, I do that kind of work. But that's not the life that I live. I mean, I was born in France. My father was in the Army. We traveled, lived in the West Coast. We lived out in Texas. So we traveled, and we moved back here when I was in like 5th grade. And so I wasn't one of the regular kids. I wasn't, I spoke French, I spoke German. They looked at me like, who are you? And black guy living in Osterville. There was a whole lot of little weird things going on. So my artwork is truly about my experiences in growing up and trying to figure out how to put these pieces together and make sense out of my being. So that's really it. And
there just happens to be a painting behind you that I know is influenced by your family.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit? Can you see that, Tom?
I don't know if you can see these, but this
yes.
This is a piece from Joe's Twin Villas. These are actually the pieces that you see here are they're in process, so they're not quite done. But this one's called Good Bones. I don't normally title my pieces before or as I'm working it, but this is a piece that I've been working on lately that it's called Good Bones because the bar had good bones.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all about great people, being a wonderful place, and but more importantly, my cousin who ran it, JB, he ran it for 20 years. He came in and kind of gave it an old school kind of bluesy feel.
Yeah.
And he came in with ribs, barbecued ribs and chicken sandwiches. So which is what we cooked. And on that sign, it actually said barbecue ribs and chicken. And so the idea of good bones kind of just permeated through the whole painting. And these are whale. This is if you go to the Whale Museum in New Bedford, you'll see these whales skeletons up hanging. So that's what that is inside. I figured the whole Cape Verdean lifestyle of fishing and all that, it all tied in. And so there you go. This Joe's. So that's kind of the way that I work,
Yeah.
And I was also fortunate enough on that. These landscapes that you see with their sunsets and stuff are actually the sunset that sets right outside here. So
so you're very much influenced by the place that you live.
Right.
And so tell us a little bit about the landscapes and, the light here. I mean, it's pretty special.
I can tell you. I mean, well, yeah, it's super special. Cape Cod is super special. I mean, that's the reason why we have, in Provincetown is the first, art colony, because the light source is just incredible. It's why Hopper and all the great ones were here, and they painted it for a good reason. And that's why I'm here painting it, because I just feel like you have to kind of, there's a certain amount of, you have to give back, and you're on other people's shoulders.
Yeah.
So you have to give back. I actually paint. It took me a long time to understand that to paint my privilege. It's a different world in the world of art, and we all have our different things that we're painting. But I'm an inside Cape Cod guy. By that I mean we have 3 ponds here, so we're inside Cape Cod. Then there's an outside Cape Cod people who hit all the oceans, and they have the money to have boats and nautical theme and all that kind of stuff. Well, that wasn't the way I grew up. I didn't grow up there, so I stayed on the interior of Cape Cod more or less. And I've
never thought about it like that.
Most people don't think of it like that. Yeah, I'm an inside guy. I mean, quite honestly, it comes down to a financial situation.
Yes.
It is. Those who have money are on the outside. Those who don't kind of stay on the inside. And there's a delineation. There's a delineation from our side of the street to their side of the street. And so I grew up in the inside.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking at Cape Cod artwork in general, it talks about the privilege of the outside people. So, there's Rosa Rugosa on the beach, and these, very Cape Cod-y scenes are about the outside. So I didn't really think I had a good fit in. And actually, I still feel like I don't have a good fit in. I mean, I'm Cape Cod, I don't get awards. I have people who've known that I've been painting for 40 years, and they go, oh, I didn't know you painted. I'm like, last time I saw you, you said the same thing,
Yeah.
So it's kind of how that goes. I'm an odd duck in the situation. So I learned to paint me, not paint what other people want me to paint. And so this is about my experience.
And you have used your talent to tell a story.
I'm a storyteller.
To talk about some of the challenges that we have as a community, as a society. Can you tell us a little bit of, you worked with Jackie Reeves on a mural and some other things that you have going on? So
so the mural, that's a really good one to talk about. Jackie and I got the opportunity to work to put up a mural with James Baldwin. It's right on 6A. The Munsell family was nice enough to call me up and say, Joe, here's a whole, a wall for you here, have at it. And we came up with this idea. I came up with the idea, and Jackie and I just blew it out in like 2 days. It was just fabulous working with her. And, it was something that was really needed. And I'm really proud of that, of being able to put that mural up. I feel like it's in the right place,
Yes.
Across the street from the library. So those people who don't know who James Baldwin is could actually go and learn about him. There was
Great idea.
next to the church. The church actually had a ceremony one time, a sermon that the pastor used James Baldwin actually doing the piece itself. So there's a moment of magic that piece, and I think that people need to realize too that piece it's not going to be there forever. As a matter of fact, it might be getting covered up as we speak. However, it's something to make us realize, that these things are fleeting, that the causes are real and the causes stay forever. But as Americans, we always have another issue to deal with, and it's so easy to put predominant issues on the back burner. This is what's happened in the African American community forever. So it's up to guys like me, who that's my, unfortunately, and I do say that unfortunately because it controls a part of my artwork that other artists don't have to deal with. And so I think that, those kind of constraints are automatic with what I do.
Yeah.
But I'm proud to be able to push the thing forward.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And then what do you have going on right now? You have some shows coming up. And
Yeah, I got a couple of cool things happening.
Yeah, do you want to share?
Sure. I'll talk about a couple of those. Actually, this piece that's back here that's in process is part of this, it's called Jazz Without Patriarchy. It's a piece of artwork that the great drummer, Terry Lynn Carrington, it's her vision. So it's going to be at the Carr Center. The Carr Center is in Detroit, Michigan. If you haven't, it's CARR, Carr Center. And the show itself will be, it's a multidisciplinary type of piece that she, being the jazz musician that she is, she has a performance part of it. There's a music part. There's a film piece of it. It's actually in 4 different sections. It's a really, really well thought out, well planned project. The Carr Center wasn't able to house the whole thing, so it's been scaled back, and because of COVID and all that kind of, it's also been pushed back. So now it's in October, I believe, is the start date. She hopes to have it move around the country, so I hope that when it gets somewhere closer, that more people will we'll get a chance to see it. She's worked with McLean Thomas. She's worked with Carrie Mae Weems. She's worked with major artists doing the same thing. So I'm so excited about it.
Tell us what is the theme?
So the theme is Jazz Without Patriarchy. So it's really what it's all about is what would jazz be like if men weren't in it. And I am one of 2 men that she's elected to be a part of it, which is really neat as well. So but the idea is like what if jazz was truly, I mean, like everything from the instruments were designed by women. What would it look like? What would the sound like? What if the women with the roadies? What would this happen? What would how would it sound? How would it be so much different? Because it's so male dominated that how would this kind of be put together if it was put together by women? And and she kind of anchors it on Jerry Allen, who's a great composer, and there's actually a few people that she actually, Mary Lou Williams is another person. And so I've been actually looking at their portraits and adding them to these type of pieces. And so I'm listening to her music and kind of, I don't know, are you familiar with the time I did the composition with Anna Glig at the museum? So she was playing the music and I was painting, which so it's the same thing but on a higher scale. Now I have a chance to take those and work into it, a couple of months worth of work, and so I'm developing a nice 5 pieces. I've been commissioned for 5 pieces, so I'll try to get 10 pieces ready and have her pick from those 10, and hopefully she'll have a hard time picking them and she can take them all.
Take them all.
That's what my dream is.
So music seems to be kind of an important consistent in
Yeah.
your process.
Yes.
What do you have playing usually in here? Because
It-
last time I was here, you had some cool music, and I wish I had asked what you were listening to.
You're probably listening to Terry Lynn at the
It
time.
was so good.
Yeah, she's incredible. No,
Yeah,
I mean, she's
yeah.
played with everybody from Count Basie to Ella Fitzgerald to she's played with everyone. She was a child prodigy, so she was such a superstar at
Yeah.
a young age and she's taught me that yeah, you might hit stardom, but then you have to work and you have to continue to work, and the ethic is what it's all about. It's about the process. It's about getting in here. It's about getting in the studio and putting your time in to make it happen. So what kind of music? I grew up with soul music. I grew up with R&B music. I grew up with my mother and father were big time jazz people. So for everything from Monk and Bird to so I have that background of music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since I feel like we're back in your studio in the mindset of kind of setting yourself up for the day. What does that look like?
My normal day?
Yeah. What does it look like?
That's a good question. Well, I actually teach youth. I have some incarcerated youth males that I teach on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Sometimes it's Monday and Tuesdays, but overall it's Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So yeah, I'm actually wearing the T-shirt. They're young men who are from the age of 14 to 19 that have been incarcerated. And so I give them an opportunity to release some energy. And that's really what it's about, because art is therapeutic. So I give them an opportunity to not only let time pass, but chance to actually get a chance to introduce themselves to themselves, because being an artist, you have that type of time and just the chance to slow everything down and let time pass at the same. So it's been really great.
What your teacher did for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. I'm not doing anything that hasn't happened to me.
Yeah.
And the great part, since it was so wonderful for me, I do it the same way that he did it too. I very much appreciate how I was brought into it, and I don't know if I'll ever hit a nerve to one of these kids, but it doesn't really matter. I know one of the things is they've had an experience, and so it's a blast to give it to them. So that's how Mondays and Tuesdays kind of work out. I get there I leave here around 11 o'clock. So actually I get up in the morning. I'm usually down in the studio somewhere between 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning. Grab my coffee.
Yeah.
And I come in, and on those days where I'm going to work, I sit and I kind of plan what I'm going to do when I get back. But those days that I don't, I come in, I'm in the studio by 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, grab my coffee, and kind of look around a little bit and get it on until about 12:30 or so. Take lunch. I come back. I own this. I own this property, so I have to work. So I come back and I might have to cut some grass, and then I come back and I paint again. So I have a morning session and an evening session, and I do that pretty much every day. So and then the morning sessions are usually more under control.
Yeah.
And then the late night ones end up being adult time, where I might have something to drink, something to smoke, who knows, and I'm just throwing it around, having some fun, and just remembering how great it is to be an artist. And then I wake up the next morning and I look what I did last night and go, okay, all right, let's start all over again. Let's go there. And the cycle continues.
That's cool.
It's a process.
Yeah.
It truly is a process.
Do you have any habits, good habits, bad habits?
Well, that was the good and the bad right there.
Yeah.
That is. I mean, you have to be careful, because this is an animal that lives on its own, and this meaning art is an animal. I mean, I can understand why drugs and alcohol and all that stuff can be a problem with anybody. So in this, because it is addicting, the whole thing is addicting. So there are some big potholes that you have to avoid personally.
How do you avoid it?
Friends, good friends, good friends. Thank God for good friends.
Yeah, you have an amazing arts community around you.
I do.
You have
By plan.
Yeah.
That wasn't something that we kind of went that we met each other and we started picking up more people, and then one day we were all talking and just where will we be in 15 years?
Yeah.
And it was really cool to have that conversation. And one of us decided, well, I want to go to graduate school. And I was like, I always wanted to go to graduate school. And they're like, where are you going to go? And it was like, I had a chance to go to that Fine Art Work Center up in Provincetown. And then so Jackie applied to it, and I thought, well, geez, that's great. She got in. Yeah. So I applied. And I didn't get in. So I was all pissed off.
Oh dear.
And I went up there.
Yeah.
And I parked my car with the attitude, slammed the door. I'm gonna go tell Jackie how I didn't get in. And this lady comes out of the office and she says, excuse me, do you know where you are? I'm like, yep. Fine Artwork Center, you know, let me go. And I'm just going to tell my friend Jackie that I didn't get accepted. And she goes, who are you? And my name's Joe Diggs. She says, well, I never saw your name in front of me. I said, well, I'm not even good enough to get in front of you, and I don't even know who you are. And she said, my name is Barbara Baker. I said, well, Miss Baker, I'm sorry for my attitude, but I'm aggravated. And she said, well, you know, maybe for a good reason. I said, well, I didn't get accepted. She said, well, I haven't seen your work, but if I give you the opportunity to get your work in front of the professors, would you take it? And I looked at her and I said, I live in Osterville, and I'll drive home right now, pick everything up, and bring it back here. Yeah. She said, no, honey, come tomorrow. Come tomorrow, bring your work. But came the next day, brought my work, spread it all over the place, and all of them looked at me and said, we'll call you in a day or two. Called me up and said, you want to come and be a part of this? So I talked my way into graduate school.
That's amazing.
That's pretty much how my whole art world is.
You're like a little teary.
Yeah, it was a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
You know? Love
that's
that
amazing.
Lady. Love that lady.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
That's amazing.
So I'm a blessed guy. That's how it goes.
Yeah,
you know?
I can see
I'm
that.
blessed.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and a lot of times I don't get recognized.
Yeah.
And she recognized me.
She did. She saw you.
So did Berta Walker.
Yes.
You know, so.
Yeah, tell us about the Berta Walker relationship.
She's a wonderful lady. Berta, well, you know, I always I wanted to go to Berta a long time ago, right? So here I come, I walk in and I go, hi, how are you?
Berta
you know?
Walker owns?
Berta Walker Galleries in Provincetown on Bradford Street. So, yeah.
And she represents a lot of
the best artists.
The best artists.
Yeah, I'm at home when I walk in there, and I feel blessed once again that, you know, to be with these just great artists. Yes. So I came in one day and I was like, you know, I would like to be here. I'd like to show. Yeah. And Berta's so good at it, she kind of looked at me like, oh, no, honey, you know, but she didn't actually say it. She just went like, oh, nice to meet you too, you know.
Yeah.
And I walked out and I was like, she didn't remember me. And then I went to the graduate school and I invited her, and I thought she was going to show, and she didn't show up, and I was like, that's fine too. And then, you know, I was kind of like, all right, whatever. And then one day I was here, and a friend of mine, Grace Hopkins, calls, and she says, you know, me and a friend and family are going to Sandwich, to the Heritage Museum. Could we swing by? And I'm like, of course you can, you know. And they came by, and she was like, geez, Joe, I didn't realize that this is what you do. And I'm like, oh no, yeah, I'm 100% all in. And she said, let me take some more photos of this. And she took some photos, and next thing I know, she talked to Berta, and she just went around and started talking to people in general and said, this guy's got to get out of the woods. How do we get him out of the woods? And then Berta called me up and said, can I come over? And she came over, and we had a great conversation, and she started looking around, and from there on, it's just been magic. It's been magic. She's a wonderful person, and you know, I mean, like I said, I don't get recognized very much, and to be recognized as, you know, in one of the top galleries in the area gave me enough energy to say, okay, I really don't care if no one else. You know, I don't need any more accolades. I'm on the level of, and let me just go ahead and continue to work hard. And so that's what's happened.
What do you have any suggestions on like representation in the arts? Like, what can we do better? And
you as an organization, or just in general?
In general.
Well, in general, I mean, representation's an issue. I mean, and it's a problem for all of us. And the reason why it's a problem for all of us is that, you know, a lot of people think that artists need representation. What they really need more than anything else is money. Yeah. You know, you know, I don't care how many times you get shown if you know when he buys a piece. Yeah. You know, and that happens, and it's very real. I mean, I'm still struggling. I mean, I'm fortunate that I have a gallery, but that does, you know, in order to make a living, you need representation. You need people who are, you know, patronage. If you can get people who actually will, you know, just because they love you, they're sending you money. That's where it's at, and that's why we need organizations like your organization. We need to be put on a level so that people can see what we're doing. That take us for not as Sunday painters. Not that there's anything wrong with Sunday painters, but take us as serious artists that want to actually give into the bigger picture. I mean, I look forward to having these in the African American Museum. I mean, that's my goal. I've got a cousin who's in there. I want to be next to Earl Richardson. I want to be next to Jack Whitten and next to Ed Clark. These are the people who I, you know, have learned they're my people. You know, I was like,
Right.
oh, you know, who are they? I had to dig to find my people. You know,
Yeah.
we can find the hoppers and we can find all those guys, but for the people who actually had the same meat and potatoes that I'm working with,
Yeah.
I had to do a little digging. And when I found them there. So I want to be with them. You know, that's my dream. And the MFA would be kind of nice too.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. You know,
Obviously.
I want all
Yeah.
that.
Of
So
course,
so how do you
deserve
get
it.
there? You get in here. You get up at 7 o'clock. You go in and you do your calisthenics. You work hard and hope that somebody recognizes you at some point. And if they don't, when I'm dead and gone, I'll have all this work around that somebody's gonna have to take care of.
Yeah, paint until you die.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it. You know.
Oh, I love it. So we are getting kind of late. Not late. We're not late. We're actually running right on time. But I wanted to just let our watchers, our viewers know that you can type in the chat any questions. I believe we have someone on the Facebook page that can field questions, as well as on the Zoom. So, or Zoom. I don't say the Zoom, do I, Jordan? So
That was a television show.
that is, oh yeah,
Yeah.
Zoom, that's
Yeah.
right. I wouldn't know that, I'm too young.
Yeah, right.
So if people have questions, type it in, and Jordan will relay those questions. And as we get deeper into the conversation with Joe Diggs here in Osterville at his studio. So I just have a few more. I'd like to do something a little different this time around.
All right.
So I thought it'd be fun to do a little quick fire
All right. Well,
questioning with you.
I'll
And I
give it a
haven't
try.
given Joe any heads up on what this might be. So these are quick,
Okay.
quick questions, quick
Quick answers. You don't want me to think it through too much?
Don't think it through.
Okay. I don't know if you're ready for these answers.
Oh my gosh, I can't even read my writing. Okay, favorite word.
Oh, favorite word. All right. I can't even come up with a word. Might be it. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Well,
That's a stumper. You know? I'm
Okay.
real good at this.
first job.
First job was at the Osterville Colonial. It was a factory, a clock factory. It was on Blossom Avenue in Osterville.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. I walked to it
interesting.
myself. It was great.
Endless money or endless love?
That's tough. I mean, I'm gonna have endless love anyways. That's the bottom line. So the only thing I need now is endless money.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, I just believe in loving yourself and loving your fellow person. I believe in endless love. Love is where it's at. So,
Yep.
so I think that's like almost a given. So I don't know if I answered that correctly, but
Nope. That's
there's no
it.
answer, right? There's no
There's
bad
no
answer. Okay,
wrong
all right.
or
I'm
right
probably
answer.
flunking this exam, but let's roll.
What is the number one most played song in this studio?
Ooh. Actually, right now, the number one is Waiting Game with Terry Lynn Carrington. That's the one because of the project that I'm working on.
Yeah.
However, I kind of have her music on mix, and I like to listen to her music an awful lot because she kind of jumps in and out of some really, really great riffs. So I would say that she'd be my number one artist.
Okay.
And then the rest of it just goes into funk and
Yeah.
the rest of the stuff. I have a great time in my studio.
I bet. The music.
You're welcome to come anytime and just hang out. I actually paint. I do what we're doing right now, but
Yeah.
without cameras. And I talk and I have
yourself.
painting. Well, I have people. I have friends.
people,
I have a
friends.
couple
Oh,
friends.
right,
I have a
friends.
couple.
That's
and they
right.
come and they hang out and I'll paint and we'll talk and we have music on. We dance and the whole thing.
Oh, I love it.
So it's a lot of fun.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite season on Cape Cod?
Winter.
Winter? Really?
Yeah. Winter,
Why?
without a doubt.
Why?
It is the most beautiful time here.
Okay. Because you can see the water.
You see the water, the sunsets are incredible. You can get around without people. It's
quiet.
You can walk the beach.
Yep.
Actually, I say winter right away, and that is my favorite time.
Yeah.
But this is a nice time too when it's not gray.
Oh, so
But
nice.
when this time of the year is great because once again the tourists are down and I get
Yeah.
the pond to myself. I can still see through without the trees, all the
Yeah.
leaves come into the trees, and so I do like it a little bit when it's on the colder side.
Yeah, and we heard you heard the peepers
Oh,
coming
yeah,
out and
it's
some
fabulous
nice
time of
birds
year.
this afternoon.
Yeah, peepers and The crocuses are happening. You start to feel alive again. Don't get me wrong, there's a very tough time, but I also empathize with that time going through the winter. You know, I've had a lot of losses in my family. I just recently lost our mother about a year ago. You know, so there's a lot of that in the winter. Allows you to have that solidarity with yourself, and it also, the colors reflect my mood. So as opposed to like trying to manufacture or trying to I can understand it all, and it's easier for me to kind of paint that scene. And then when I paint, sometimes ugly things require you to paint beautiful things. Just so that you're not ugly inside. So so that's what the seasons do for me. It's a great thing.
Last question.
Sure.
And then we'll take some questions from our viewers. Okay, this is a tough one.
All right, thanks for the warning.
This one's for Chris Kazarian. Who would play you in a movie?
Denzel. Come on, stop it.
Obviously, right?
You know, I would say Taye Diggs because he's got the same last name, but I mean Denzel's known for everybody, so I want to be, you know. Don't get me wrong. You know, I mean, I want it all. So I got to go with Denzel, and he's such a great actor. I mean, he really is. And besides handsome and all that other stuff, it kind of works out. But you know, if not him, you know, I don't know. There's a few, but he'd be
Ellen
good.
Plickett wrote Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey Wright. Okay. All right.
Thank you for sharing.
No, it's my pleasure. I'm glad that I hopefully answered some of those questions, but I don't know.
Do we have any questions, Jordan?
We do. First, I'd just like to say from Danette, I'm going to mispronounce your last name, I'm so sorry, Atsalis.
Atsalis.
Hello, congrats, and sends their love.
I love you too, Danette.
Yes.
All right.
That's the Atsalis.
Cape Cod
Cape Cod Package Store.
Cape Cod Package Store.
Her
Thank you, Danette, for
graduated
your support
together.
of the Arts Foundation.
Yeah,
So
they're a
thank you.
fantastic family.
Yeah.
They've known our family for a long time.
She's shaking her head at you guys.
Yeah.
All right, and then we have from Deb Kubelos, what challenges you the most these days, and or what challenges excite you?
Ooh, good one,
So Deb, what challenges excite me right now? So I'm dealing with the bits and pieces of COVID, and trying to find that kind of the language that I've been using in my COVID pieces, and trying to find a way to connect everything. So you know, like. So I work from nature, so my abstractions tend to be landscape based, and within that landscape based part, that COVID brought a micro and macro perspective to things, so I've been going in and out with a very kind of busy pattern. I've got a couple down here I could kind of show you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like these pieces here where there's a lot of freneticness that happen, you know, and then I kind of find spaces that hold them, and then I move it on, so it's almost like a skin over the top. So there's multi-layers, and then if you look inside, you can even find figures and faces, and so there's a certain amount of like micro and macro. I'm pushing out and going back in, inside and outside.
Which
exactly.
is the
exactly.
way. Yeah, that's
And
interesting.
with the COVID thing, it just magnified everything.
Right.
And with that, so I guess I hope I'm answering that question, because that is also my angst on the same thing. You know, I mean, it's hard to get these things to blend and to make them without forcing them. You have to find theirs. You know, the material itself has its own natural way of working. So you want to try to make it so that you're working with the material instead of against it.
Interesting.
All right.
Jordan?
From Chris Kazarian, are there any artists, either painter or other creative, that you admire or who inspires you?
Yes, there's a lot. There's so many. I mean, Chris, I probably couldn't even go into it. I kind of went in a little bit about the New York guys with, you know, Jack Whitten and Mel Edwards and Ed Clark and so on. But, you know, I also was fortunate enough to have worked with a few great professors. So, you know, Steve Locke down in New York was just fabulous to work with him.
Mass art grad.
Yeah. And you know, Keith Washington, also another Mass art grad who's just a fabulous teacher.
Yeah, give us who we should know.
Yeah, you should know those two guys.
should know
most
those two.
definitely.
Steve Locke.
And Keith Washington. Keith
Yeah.
Morris Washington. He's a fabulous
Yeah.
artist. And then there are. I mean, we could keep going for a little while, especially when it comes down to people who I like, Raymond Sanders, and it goes on with Gillum, and it goes. I've been fortunate when I got a chance to go to Chicago, and when I was young. And I got to see a Charles White and a James Bigger up close. And when I got to see them personally, I was like, oh yeah, this is it. So I fell in love with that whole group of artists, and those would be a few of the many. Jack Whitten's right on the top though. He's my guy.
Jack Whitten.
Yeah, he was special.
Okay. I just lost it. So sorry. Okay. Don McKenzie, you're fortunate to have a beautiful, spacious studio to work in. What advice, if any, do you have for an artist whose space is limited?
Ooh, I've been to Dawn's studio, and it is a little limited. And she's such a talented artist. I can see her urging for more space. I guess it would all come down to being able to handle your space, to be organized and all that stuff. And quite honestly, I'm not organized, so I can't have a small space. So Dawn, come visit.
She needs to visit. She needs to visit Joe Hayes' space.
Yeah,
because Joe Hayes' space is tiny.
He does have small space.
So probably like staying super organized.
That's got to be a must.
Yeah.
And like I said, being organized and having a systematic way of working would be, it's imperative in a small space.
Yeah.
And as you can see, I have half of the stuff in the other room. So yeah, I don't have that ability. Just don't have it.
Seems organized.
It's hard enough just to clean the brushes. I
Yeah.
don't even clean them anymore, quite honestly.
All right. Is there a place in the world that you would love to go to and paint?
Ooh.
There's a few of them. Yeah, I always want to go to the Imperial Gardens of Katsura in Japan. Those one, but I would like to. I was born in France, as I said earlier. I want to go back and see where I was born, and no matter if it's ugly or beautiful, I want to paint that. Those are the two that are on the top of the list. But as long as there's material, as long as I have paint, I'm in a good space.
All right. Where can we see your work besides Provincetown?
Joe Diggs Art, www.joedigsart.com is my website. It has not been updated in a little while. Once again, I'm not the organized guy, but
you need to fix that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I do put new pieces in from time to time, and I am happy to have people come and visit. I think you don't get,
cool.
You don't actually get the experience on a website, and what you do is, if I can get you, if you're serious about buying, or if you're serious about checking out the work, if you look at the website and it says, yeah, let's go a little further, when you come here, you'll find something that's even more special. I had that opportunity with a collector from Lexington who came, and the branches, they came and they saw my work online, and then when they came here, they were like, oh yeah, but that's the ones we saw online but we want that one and that one and that one.
Yeah.
And that's the experience.
Yeah, you really have to be in the space with the paintings. They're so just vibrant, and they're large scale.
Well, that's a misnomer that most people think that Joe just paints huge. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of 8x10s. They get a whole bunch of
there's some
I
smaller
paint. I
pieces,
paint.
too.
I paint.
You just paint.
Yeah, that's what I do. I get up in the morning, I paint. I go to bed. I mean, there's paint all over my walls. They're all over the floors. It's just what I do. It's a wonderful thing. Just to be a head to toe paint.
Yeah, you're all in.
I'm in.
So I think that segues perfectly. We have a request to view the specific painting here on the wall, the landscape and the trees.
Tell us about that.
That's just out my window. This is my normal painting. I paint this. I draw when I paint. Demonstrate paintings. I paint this. When I do it when it doesn't matter whether I'm here. I can be in Detroit painting, and I'll paint this scene. I've got all these trees down. It's just part of my. I look at them every day.
It looks exactly like what it looks outside right now.
That's home, and so it's manipulations from the same space.
Yeah. Yeah, these are interesting
So,
underneath.
These are, so the other day when the snowstorm came through, it kind of, if you look out, you can see where this tree is. It basically just slid right through.
Yeah.
And I decided, okay, let's freeze this and let's just show this moment. Here's one that's really neat. This one is, I was at Tuckerman's. Tuckerman's.
Oh yeah, ravine.
Snowboard and look across the street and you see the.
Yeah.
So, but I flipped it upside down and I started painting these over top of it, and it reminded me of cotton.
Yeah.
So it brought me full circle into like where I was to where I think and stuff. So it reminded me of like a little cotton field or cotton branch.
Yeah.
Oops. So that's kind of where these things lend, and I just follow them.
Yeah.
The last thing I put on the web out, I put this piece out, and I had the round circle that came through, and it was a magical moment.
yeah.
This was the piece itself. So this place is just, it's magic.
It
This
is.
I mean, birds come by and bless me. You know, the property just keeps giving back, so I keep honoring it. I keep
I
honoring
love it.
All right, question from Jackie DeReuter. Is there something you see missing from our art community on the Cape versus that of a city like Boston or New York City? Is there an advantage to our smaller community?
Huge advantages, don't you think so? I mean, I think there's huge
Pros and
advantages of
cons,
being in
yeah.
a smaller community because the bottom line is we can actually be seen. Ask the people in New York, in the city,
Right.
Because they're just fighting on top of each other. But on the other side of it, though, there's a lot of disadvantages. I mean, the disadvantages kind of do outweigh the advantages, if you ask me. It gets, it's a hard thing to always say, but we have people who are into the nepotism. You have people that are into, okay, my son or my husband or blah, blah, blah. And so it doesn't have a lot of time to do with talent, or it doesn't have a lot of time to do with actually people who are in doing the work. I've been with people and, they've said to me, how much have you sold this? And I tell them, and they look at me like, I have to raise my prices. I'm like, no, that's not it. You have to go to work.
Yeah.
You have to. So there's a difference. There's a difference in the big city. Sometimes the cream can separate easier, and you can tell what the cream of it really is. Where here it gets a little bit jumbled, and you cannot be recognized because of it, or not taken to the level where you should be taken.
Right. I think that in some ways, I think the challenges here from an arts foundation perspective is that I think because we're a seasonal community, and sometimes that when tourists come or second home owners come, they really want that like quintessential Cape Cod.
Right.
And so the brand of arts sometimes gets challenged, and artists that are more contemporary, edgy, get overlooked, or there's not an expectation of seeing of innovation.
They're not
in
understood.
The arts.
They're not understood because it's not something they come here for. So it'd be different if there was something here.
Right.
And that's been my argument for years now.
Yeah.
That if we had a contemporary museum in Hyannis or anything that could actually so we could use our platform.
Right.
That it
because
would only help.
there are artists like you.
There's
here.
plenty of us. There's plenty of us, and it will create more of us.
Yes.
And then so it doesn't make any sense to have a historical or art community or art neighborhood like we have in Pearl Street if you're not going to bring it to a point where you can crescendo and actually make it so there's a landing spot. The little gallery there is wonderful, but that's not going to do it. I mean, we have partners, or well, we could have partnership with like Pam and these incredible places, and it should be understood, and that would actually open the door up and make it so that everybody got a chance to do more. And don't get me wrong, Cape Cod Art Museum is doing their best. They're moving forward. They're working hard.
Yeah.
I'm part of their one of their committees, and it's nice to be a part of seeing them moving forward. But that's not where it's at. We need a contemporary one, so that we get the kids more engaged,
Innovation.
and get the community more engaged,
Yeah.
and it would actually open it would open and put everything in the right
Yeah, a
perspective.
place for
That's
people
really needed.
to like challenge, go to the edge,
That's right.
experiment.
That's right. And it will also break the idea that we have to continue to paint these scenes, these corny tourist scenes. So and that we're because look, I mean the shanties are great. I have this conversation. My brother, he's a politician. He's a rep, and he's working hard. And he asked me,
Thanks for all your work, Rep Diggs.
Yeah, he's done great. Thank you, bro. But he's like, yeah, in the shanties. I'm like, bro, people aren't gonna buy my work from a
Joe
shanty.
Diggs doesn't do shanties.
There's no need. I mean, really? This would fill one shanty, with one painting. I mean, it's just this is no.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it's not the right context to put this stuff in because it won't fit in the bigger world picture.
Yeah.
And that's
it's
what
a
we
different
need. We need to be
customer.
connected, and we have the lineage. If we didn't have the history, I would say, okay, never mind.
Such a good point.
But we have the history with Provincetown,
Right.
and it's. You got to drive through us to get to them, or you have to fly. So it just doesn't make any sense that we're holding on to, a placard and a knot, because that's really what it is. Everything's got a placard, on a stone, memories of or whatever, and a double hitch knot, or a sail. It's a little painful, for somebody like myself who really wants to tell the story, the real story.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Any
other questions?
Yeah.
Oh, Jordan.
I hope I didn't get anybody too aggravated
Did
on that one.
Did we get all worked up about that one?
Quiet on the socials. You're all good. Next question. Do you ever get a creative block, painter's block? And
good
how
one.
would you push through it?
I don't know.
You are immune to creative block.
No, I didn't say that. I don't know how you get through it. I have had plenty of them. I don't know if I'm through it still. You don't know. That's just the way it goes. This is, this
Like
thing
it
is.
comes and goes?
Yeah, this thing is fluid, and that's why when people start talking about, I only paint when I feel like it. Well, good luck. No, because that doesn't go like that.
Right.
So the bottom line is, you get in and you work every day. It's calisthenics. You work every day,
Yeah.
and byproducts happen. And sometimes your byproducts are excellent. Sometimes your byproducts aren't that good. Sometimes you run into those blocks, and you go like, okay, I'll never paint another good painting again.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get up the next morning and do it again, all of a sudden you go, you know what? I might end up doing a good painting before this one's
Yeah.
out.
I feel better today.
Yeah, you just have to, persevere. It's all about putting your time in.
And fresh air.
Fresh air does help.
Yeah, don't you think?
No, I gotta tell you, Julie. I actually, one of my favorite times to paint
Yeah.
is like at 3-4 o'clock in the morning when I'm absolutely exhausted.
Really?
Absolutely on empty.
Do you think it's because you're not overthinking
There's
it?
no thinking going
Yeah.
on whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's just totally reacting and not even fighting with the canvas at some point. So at some point you have to acquiesce and just say, okay, all right, this is where we stand.
Yeah.
And that amount of fatigue actually allows me to do that.
Oh, interesting. Okay, Jordan. Anything
All right.
else?
So
What time is it?
we have still 7 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Don't
Sorry.
take us out yet. What's the hardest thing about being an artist, and what's the best thing?
The hardest thing about being an artist is, this is the easiest one. This is the easiest question of the day, is the money. The money. It's without a doubt the hardest thing. You sell a painting, you think things are moving. I had a show in New York in '87, all right? The Cast Iron Gallery. New York was hot. I'm in there, boom, boom. I come out of the blue, cold call. I walk into this gallery, Cast Iron Gallery. Just walked in. The guy says, you know what? If you bring these paintings to me in life, I'm interested. I brought him in, and he says, yeah, you're in the show. And you would have thought, that it was sky's the limit at that point. Here I am 30, 40 years later, not any more advanced than I was then. Well, yeah, I am. But that one was a huge up, and I expected to be in the New York game and playing that whole and going to rock star status and all that kind of stuff. This has taught me an awful lot, and it's taught me what's important.
Yes.
And what's truly important is me getting up every day and doing my calisthenics, because I need to do it. There's some people who don't. Some people can get around it, but I'm not that guy.
No, you got to put your hours in.
I have to put my time in.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered the question.
I think you did.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we have also people just sharing their love or passing on Hello, again, Danette passed on from Scott and Nancy Nash.
Ah,
That you guys are all classmates at Joe.
yes, yes indeed. We had a super art class in high school. I mean, super art class. You know,
Yeah.
this guy Scott and Nancy, you know, Nash, Nancy Gibson,
Oh, yeah.
fantastic artists up in Maine. You know, Chris Ann Baker, another great artist up in Maine. I mean, he just, you know, Rhode Island School of Design. You know, they were just everywhere.
Yeah.
And it was all because of that great program
teacher.
that Ed Bolton put. And then Carl Lopes followed up and did a fine job right behind him. So
Yeah,
I don't know
absolutely.
who's actually running it now. Maybe Abby Faye. I'm not really sure.
I thought Matt Kemp.
I'm wrong. I don't know. So I know that Abby's there, and she's one of my favorite people. So you know,
I love Abby.
I love.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
you know, but kudos to those people for running that
Yes.
program,
Yeah.
for making us, and we're still together, and that's the cool thing.
Yeah.
We still, when Scott comes around and Nancy, we get a chance to say hello every once in a while, which just makes my day every time I get a chance to hang out with those guys. And Chris Ann pops in, and we have a beverage or something. It's really cool.
All right, so we talked also about representation on the Cape, but how can the Cape do better in terms of supporting, elevating, and seeing artists of color?
I would really like to ask Julie Wake that. Because that's not a question for me. I mean,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
job is to work, and
Yeah.
I've done the work, and I think that
Yeah.
it's up to people like you and your founder.
Yeah.
You're, and I'm not trying to be a jerk here.
No.
I'm
No,
throwing
I
it back
love
at
that.
you.
I love that question because it is something that we are always asking ourselves right now about how we do better. And I would answer that. The quick answer is creating more access and opportunity and spotlighting when we can, having great dialogue, not being afraid to ask the hard questions and having, challenging dialogue.
Yep.
And so, we definitely are digging deeper into how we can support artists of color, and not only the ones that are here, but we'd like to be a more welcoming, accessible arts community that we could attract more people.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you're saying. I think one of the other problems that we have is because within the structure of these, corporate these structures, there's not enough people of color in those.
Right.
So in the Arts
Exactly.
Foundation, in all these different, if you don't have people of color to even turn you on to the people of color, then you don't know who they are, and
Right.
and they sit in the back, and or it becomes, okay, we need to find a person of color, and then now it's a competition of people of color as opposed to a competition of everyone.
Right.
So that is kind of the ball of racism in a big ball of wax, to be honest with you. This is the
Absolutely.
problem that we have. In order to have pure equity and for everyone, the playing field needs to be readjusted, and since the playing field needs to be readjusted, it starts from the grassroots. And if you don't have anybody in your committees, if you don't have anybody who doesn't look like in your committees, you need to push to get somebody who
That's
doesn't
right.
look like you in the committee, somebody who doesn't believe the same things that you do. It's nice to see more women, and women in the arts are fabulous, but it'd be nice to see more women of color in the arts. And I'm not talking just black. I mean, I just think everything,
Yeah.
all over. But I also realize that racism is a global issue. It's not just an American issue. And that's why I hope that here in America that we'll actually, because we don't do well when it's our problem, right? We don't do real well when it's ours. But when we look at the big picture, we can say, well, they don't have it right, so we can get it right. So I'm hoping that at some point we'll deflect and start saying, you know what, they don't have it right over there. They're treating the Africans wrong. They're treating the Haitians wrong. They're treating those people who aren't of light color wrong. And then we'll realize that we are doing it as well, and somehow we'll figure out how to fix it. But
Yeah.
it's been a long time, and it needs to stop.
Yeah, I just don't want to lose that momentum of the moment. Like, it's so important to, just not let it pass by.
Yeah. Well, momentum's kind of like what we talked about with, coming in here. You got to do your due diligence. You get up
Yeah.
every day, put your shoes on, and go to work on it. That's the
That's
only way
right.
that it happens. And unfortunately, for me, it's something I know I have to wear. Unfortunately, for some of my white friends, it's not that way. They
Right.
say, okay, we'll put the shirt on today, but tomorrow it's a little too tight,
Right.
But
Good question. Thanks for that question.
All All right, so I think we're getting to the close to the end here.
Oh,
So I
okay.
just want to close out with a message from Deb. Love that you honor your space, whatever that space may be, physical, mentally, or spiritually.
Oh, thank you, Deb.
Aw.
Thank you so much.
That's very sweet. Okay, well, Joe,
Is that it already?
that's it already. I know, it was so fast. I
Yes.
forgot we had a camera on us. It was
Yeah.
so
No,
interesting.
thank you very much.
So thanks for having
Appreciate
us and sharing and being so, authentic with us. And this was great. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed
Thank
talking
you very much. I appreciate it.
with you and being in this amazing space.
Come back anytime. Come
Yeah,
back
so
anytime.
check
Please,
out
please.
joedigsart.com
Yep, Joe Diggs Art.
and make an appointment to come over here and see this amazing work and have some coffee, listen to some good music, look at art, talk about art,
Yeah. All the
and
above.
with Joe. So thank you for joining us. Our next Modern Love interview is on
April 21st.
April 21st with Tasha Van Zant, and she is a movie maker.
She's fabulous.
Yeah, amazing. She did a documentary on Antarctica, and we'll be talking with her in her studio. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm sorry, Tasha, that I messed up your last name. And I'm sorry, what, Jordan? And yes, and so I think it's a wrap. I just want to say thank you to our patrons who support this program, and especially William Ravis Real Estate, the official real estate office of the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod. So thank you so much for your continued support. We couldn't do this work without you. So thanks so much, and thanks for joining us.